For anyone that might be joining on. For today's stream, we're gonna be working on a little iOS app that takes in, some weather data, or makes API for weather data, and it'll give us a table of some zip codes and their weather. So this is going to be kind of a playground for myself to just kind of talk and code through. It's not really based on lessons or anymore. The only new thing that I'll be showing you specifically is Combine. Combine. It's the newer framework for Swift for asynchronous handling of code. So it's more specifically for iOS 13 and above, and likewise macOS Catalina and all the other ones. I think it was Swift 5, I forget, 5.1. Yeah, no, I think it was 5.1. So 5.1 is has the restriction for the platform. So if you are going to use Combine in an app, it would have to be for iOS 13 and above. Just remembering that. Just the same thing as SwiftUI. So the API that I'll be using is called Open Weather Map. And so you can go there. To use their API, you need to make a free account, and then you can get an API key. I already have one, so feel free to go to their API, sign up, and get one. We'll be looking at their API docs to find out what kind of API or what kind of data we'll be wanting to fetch. And what I'm thinking is going to be the current weather data. So if we check out the API docs for that, kind of see a lot of text, but we can call current weather data for one location. And we can call it by city name. You can call it by city ID, geo coordinates, zip, many other ways, and goes on for quite a bit. But simply, we're going to use the zip code one, just because I think it's easiest to put in 5 numbers and do that instead of trying to find names or locations. So this is going to be our main API. Or our main endpoint that we're going to hit. So let's check out an example really quick. And we can see that the samples returns us some zip in the US. And here's its app ID. And here's the JSON that it returns us. So let's just put this in a JSON formatter to get a little bit better understanding of this. Yeah, there you go. So I can't move it over. There we go. So we can kind of see what they're giving back to us. And they give us the coordinates, weather, kind of a description of it. I'm assuming this is for the icon. And the ID might be the PNG. You can probably retrieve the PNG that they say right here. And then we have base stations, main. Here's where we get temperature. And other things like that. Now the temperature looks different. I didn't read what form it's in. Let's see. Yeah, off the top of my head, I don't know why it's so high. Maybe someone knows that's watching. I don't mess with weather that much, and it's kind of weird to me that's in that. All right, well, regardless, we're going to start taking it in. You can see that it's a mountain view. So let's open up a project. So we'll create an Xcode project. And we'll just call Weather App. And for this one, we're going to make sure it's still storyboard. I can talk a little about SwiftUI in this, but I'm still more comfortable with UIKit, just for navigation and other things like that. I think SwiftUI is great, but I still haven't had time to, put an I there. I still haven't time to feel comfortable with it, or had enough time to explore around with it. So here we go. All right, throw this here. Okay, so we're given just the basic stuff, and I guess right now we don't have to worry about getting SwiftUIKit in, but let's do it just really quick. So we'll go to Swift Packages, add package dependency, and we're just going to do this so we don't have to do it later. And we're going to add in SwiftUIKit. This is in the description of the video, so if you want to copy that, that'd be fine. If you can't find it, I can send it. We're just going to take develop. You can take 1.1, but develop just got maps in it, or the map view in it, so we might mess around with that and try it. So, all right, imported that. Looks great. So now we can import SwiftUIKit. Cool. All right, so let's, well, I guess we don't have to really add anything. Let's just configure the navigation controller and make sure that we can navigate instead of just having one screen. So you can see we can go to the storyboard and see our view controller here. So we'll just add in a navigation controller. Don't know why Xcode's going crazy right now with the, jeez. Alright, and then we'll just change this, the navigation controller, to be the initial. We'll delete that, and then we'll right click and we can drag and say root view controller over here. So this will give us the nice navigation bar up here, and we'll be able to navigate and use this controller to push and modal. I guess you can always modal even if you have a navigation controller, but it'll allow us to actually push using that navigation controller. So let's build it really quick. What's going on? Xcode, stop this. Oh no, OBS is going crazy. Whatever. Alright, well, let's start making this API call. So we're going to import combine, and we have to remember that this will be for iOS 13 and above. So if you're trying on a phone that isn't iOS 13, or if you're trying on a simulator that isn't running iOS 13, you're not going to be able to run this. Or if your target version is not, which the default is normally, I think, the highest version. Oops, under targets. And so it's 13.2. So yeah, that's the highest version. So if you're under 13, you can't really use this. So let's just make the basic API or call. So we'll just say URL session. Oh jeez, this is taking a bit. Shared dot. We're going to do a data task. And this time it's going to be a publisher instead of just a normal data task. Last time we did a data task with a completion block, but this time we're doing a data task publisher. And we'll just pass in the URL. And I have it handy down here for mine and my data. So let's put that in. Alright, there we go, and we'll just need to force unwrap this just for simplicity of showing. Obviously you'd handle that in a safe way and not force unwrap in an actual app, but oh my goodness, yeah, my computer's going pretty slow with this OBS. I think it was the recent update. Ooh. All right, well, whatever. Let's move on. So after we get that data test publisher, all we need to do next is type in sync, and we can get the completion handler and the actual received value. So for the completion handler, I'm not really going to do anything in here, just simply because receive completion says that either there's an error or there's or it's completed or it's finished. It just kind of says when the publisher has stopped sending events or when the state changed. Other than that, we'll receive value and actually get what we wanted in the second block or the second closure. So we'll just say data and we'll say response. So the nice part about this is now we know data is not optional. Okay, so we know we have data. Last time when we were doing the URL session data task with the completion block, we got everything in one block. We got the data, which was optional. I think we got the response, which was optional, and even the error, which was optional. I think everything was optional in there. But it was handled all in there so that you'd handle the error first or check if you had data and all that. So for this one, we know that we've successfully made the request, and now we have data. So we can just simply print out the data, and specifically this data is JSON formatted. So we can do try Json Serialize. I forget. Oh, come on, Xcode. Serialization. Yeah. And we don't want to create it. We just want to say dot object or data. I forget. Yeah. Oh, no, we want object. So we're trying to get an object out of this. And here we go. We want to pass in data. And let's not give it any options. So we'll just say an empty array. Okay. So if you run this right now, you'll make the request, but you actually won't get anything. And think you'd get more of a you get a completion event. You wouldn't get the data, and that's because we lose reference of this call, and it doesn't stay around in memory. So what we need to do is we need to have like a bag, or we need to have a list or a set or an array of our subscriptions. So normally I just create an array of any cancelable, and that's the type that we're going to be storing. And so after we make the sync call or the sync method, we can, or whatever sync returns, let's see that here. So what does sync return that allows us to, and it returns any cancelable. So pretty much we're going to store this and this call and the any cancelable that it returns inside of our bag, so we keep reference to it. So luckily they have a store, and I can just put in bag. All right. Awesome. Okay, cool. So let's run it now, and now we should get some text in here. Cool. Here it goes. Okay, and start checking the console. I think it'll pop up. Alright. Jeez, my computer's running so slow I can't tell if it made the request or not. Well, I'm gonna eat what I said and just print out whatever comes in the completion block. Well. Oh, there it is. Yeah, okay, I'm not crazy. Oh, jeez, that really tested it. Alright, so we got something back. We can see that the name is Clearwater. Feels like, I still don't know why it's that high. There wasn't anything that clearly stated what you're using. But yeah, this is great. All right, cool. So we want to actually store this data and not just get it as a huge string of these values. So let's start creating a weather object that we may use to populate our text field, or not our text field, our table, or a list of these weather objects. So we'll just create a struct called weather, and we'll just say it's codable. And so I'm just going to say it has, and we'll just scroll through and see, I want the name, so we'll say name, string, okay. And then let's find out, well, let's see, forecast. So we'll name it weather forecast, is it that? Yeah, whatever. And what I want is this weather object in here. So we're going to have something actually called weather. So and so now the description is a string. And we'll just say we'll get the main. And that's a string. Okay. So we'll just get the description and main from weather. Okay. And we can say let weather equals weather. Plug a type. Alright, cool. So still have this, but let's try to actually get the weather. So we'll try JSON decodable this time instead of serialization dot decode, and we're going to decode weather forecast. Dot self, and we'll just pass in the data. Okay. And we'll just print weather after that. Alright, and it looks like we got nil. So it means we didn't, if we didn't wrap it with optional, we would have to do a try catch and we'd find out the error. But you can assume that the error is most likely caused from us not matching exactly with this. So let's remove weather really quick because we know this has name. So at least weather forecast with name should work because I can see name right here. Okay. Yep. Alright, there we go. So now we can see Clearwater. So it was complaining about weather, and that weather wasn't right. Oh, so I think weather is actually the JSON serialization is kind of weird. I think this might actually be an array. Yeah, I think this might be an array of weather objects. So let's just try running it again, and if we did the try catch and actually printed out the error, it would tell us the coding key that it's throwing the error on because it can't match it. but let's see. Yep. Okay, so that was the correct thing. So we have the basic little weather right here. Let's add the weird main, what they call main. So we'll say temp. And we're just going to get the humidity. It's 65, so it's an int. I don't know if it can, be a decimal, so I'm just going to say a double. Let's actually say a float. I like floats better. And then let's get the temperature. And that looks like a string. Okay. So we'll just say that main, which is called right here. So main, we'll call it the same thing. We could change the variable name, but then we'd have to supply coding keys and do a little bit more for Codable. Codable default just matches the variable name with whatever we're looking for. So that's why we said name and weather and weather. So main would just be temp. And now we can run it again. And this time it should print out a temp or a main variable with humidity and temperature. And it doesn't. Okay. So maybe I misspelled something. Let's check. Or maybe humidity is actually an int. Yeah, let's try that. Trying to look if I spelled everything right. Alright, let's not get hung up on this. So I think it might be humidity or maybe temp. Maybe temp's actually not a string, but we'll just try this really quick and see if this will actually give us our little temp. If not, we can move on from this and kind of mess with it later. But really I want to just get some data and populate it in. Alright. So that's too bad. Main's not playing nice with us. Yep. Alright. So we'll just get rid of this. Can't find the weather right now. But that's not the point. Right now, we're just trying to get some data so that we can create a table of these. And then we'll go back, add the weather in, and all of them would have the weather for whatever they are. Okay? So we're going to say that weather forecast extends from cell displayable. Okay, and make sure that you've imported SwiftUIKit because this is from that. So this will give you a little error and actually tell you, hey, you need to add in a cell ID. So we'll just add in a basic cell ID that we'll use later, and I'll just say weather. Okay. So right now it looks like we have a name, and then we have, what's main? Main. This is weird how they named it. So main says it's clear, and the description is clear sky. So this is like the title, and that's the description of it. Okay. So we'll just create a class, weather cell, and that's a UI table view cell. And we're just going to create all of the views that we may want to update throughout the table. So we'll say let name label equals label, and we're just going to create them so we can just keep a reference to them. So let's just say the weather title would be main. cool. Oops. All right, so now we got that. So that's the basic of what views we'll use in there. But let's extend weather cell and add a table view cell. And now here's where we actually create the cell and hook up the ID. So we're just going to take weather, put it in here, and now we can say weather cell.id. Okay, and now we can configure the cell and where everything is. So this passes in data, but I'm going to ignore it because update also, or update will be called multiple times or more than once. Configure is only called once when the cell's actually initialized. The cells are reused, so that's why they'll need to update their data, because it's not the same cell as when you first saw, like the first element or the first cell of your table view. When you keep scrolling down, that cell specifically is reused in the table view cell. So you can't act like all your cells permanently stay wherever they are. They're reused through the table view. So for the configure, this is, if it has not been initialized and it's just being created, how do we set up this cell? Okay, so that's what we're going to do first. We'll say content view dot clear, just to make sure that we clear anything, even though there shouldn't really be anything because this is new. And we'll just embed a vertical stack. Oops. Okay. And we'll say the label.title is, oh, whoops, messed up there, sorry. So we will say that this is the label 1 title, the weather title can be 2, and let's say the description is body. Okay, so in here we can say name, do we need to say self? I think, yeah. So we'll do self.name label, and then okay, cool. All right, so we got that. So that just outlines and puts the views. Oh, title. Not staying consistent with my naming convention, but I'm not going to worry about it too much. So in update, we're passed in data, and it's cell displayable. So whatever struct we had that we kind of linked this up is actually cell displayable. So we can just cast it as weather forecast. And so now all we have to do is just say name label dot text data dot name. Yep. And then we want to say, well, so for this I'm only gonna have one item in weather right now, how I have this set up. So if you're wondering that, we're only going to have weather.title. Oops. So we'll just say weather.first dot main. There we go. I'll just copy this and switch. And now we can change this to description, and there we go. Okay, cool. So we've set it up in the basic VStack, and then we've updated it, and we've linked them up. So now let's actually make the table. So create a table. and we'll just say table view, and the table. And let's say the table, we want to register the cell that we actually have. So then we can just say other to say table view cell. Yeah, okay, so then we want weather cell.self. Alright, cool. So now all that's left is just adding some data to the table. So let's say self.table.append, and we'll just put in the first section. We're going to put in weather. Get rid of this. Alright, awesome. Alright, so now when we run it, hopefully we'll see our first weather item. Oh, yes, it is still optional. So now we're going to guard let weather else. Yeah, I guess. I mean, you can do a try catch or you can do a guard let. There's good reasons, you know, for both, and my good reason to use a guard let is because I don't intend to handle any errors for the demo purpose. So, but normally I would use try catch to normally handle or catch the error. So we'll just return, just because we don't care. Okay. All right. So now we should be able to run it, and once this call finishes, we'll actually see weather be updated. Hopefully this call doesn't finish in time that weather hasn't been configured, because it'll crash. Okay, so the only thing that we forgot, or I forgot, is to actually update it on the main thread. Dispatch queue.main.async. And we'll do that, and then we can do reload data. But as I said before, we're going to want to do this after register and add it. It doesn't matter if we add it. We just wanted to do it after we register because we're actually updating the data. And if the table doesn't have the cell registered and you give it data that it doesn't know how to display, it throws an error. Or it crashes, also known as an error. So now, boom, there we go. So we had our API call, come back, update our table's data, and append clear water, clear sky to our table view. Okay. So let's make this a little bit easier to do the API call. So we'll just say func fetch zip code weather. Is zip code capitalized or not? I don't know. They look weird both ways to me now. They're just two separate words. Yeah. I don't care if it's enter stuff. It's just for easy. I don't want to type in the quotes. Oh, jeez. Yeah. Here we go. We'll just add this whole thing to here. And so now we can just say zip code. Alright, cool. And we'll get rid of this, get rid of weather, have that. And now, now I'll just add all of the zip codes we want to fetch. So if I type in fetch zip code, and I'm going to pull up random zip codes. Yeah. This does. Alright. So we'll just throw this here. And so let's what we're going to do is we're just going to add a few of these, and then we'll fetch it because now we have a list. So we should be able to get all these and or throw them in the table or list as I refer to it. Let me copy these and then we'll check that out. So if we go, oh, zip codes. So we're just gonna do a for each for all these, just to simply get the calls. This is like easiest. So we'll say fetch. All right, and let's see. So hope to see some of these load in or populate. There we go. All right, cool. So we got a few of the names. So now we're at a really good spot. We have it already populating. We have the zip codes. So we can either focus on improving the API, which I feel it's pretty simple just to get the stuff, so I think we're fine. Or adding more data, or which inherently means that we have to update the cell. So if we wanted to add more data to the cell, we can make it look nicer or have more data. We can also make it navigate so that when you click on one of these, it would take you to the full detail page of it, maybe having more information and other things like that. So I don't have a clear goal for this, other than just kind of taking it stream by stream. So for this one, I think I'm going to clean up the view a bit and add in the weather, the temperature. Hopefully we can figure out what the numbers are so big for, because I still don't know. But I would like to also show if it's sunny or anything like that. So let's check this out. So we have clouds, clear, clear clouds. Okay, cool. So there's a few other things that it can be, but sadly it's not much different. So let's see if we can check out their guide. I'm just going to try to check if they have any information on the calls and what they bring back, and I think I'm at the same one. Interesting. Okay. I'm trying to find out what other mains there are. And I think we're gonna have to we'll have to look for this, because I could just guess on what's given to me. Yeah, see, it says weather parameters. Here we go. Units default Kelvin. There we go. Okay, so yeah, I thought it was Kelvin, but it was just, I don't know. So can we change the imperial? I wonder if we can update it to imperial or... Okay, cool. Well, this is handy. So here we go. Units. Okay. That took a bit. Sorry, I didn't prepare that. But that wasn't too hard to find. Do you have to do an and for each one? Yes, I think so. So let's check and hope that we get some nice weather. Oh, I forgot that we took out the weather, and we also took out the serialization. So let's try that so we can find out that. And we'll print this out again. All right, cool. And so now, yes, that looks a lot better. All right, cool. So we can say it's clear, but now let's try getting the main, or whatever this object is. So first off, I'm going to try to make it easier on myself than guess, is to check out some of these. Okay, response, so cool. Okay. So yeah, main. Okay. They're all doubles except for humidity, I think. Percent could be a decimal, so that's what throws me. All right, so we'll just say feels like double. All right, and we'll make a few of these. Maybe I made one too much. Oh no. Getting lazy. Alright, so we got that. Hopefully they're all doubles. I don't think they are, if they're not going to even show .0, so we'll just say that. And then the weather forecast, we'll say main, and that's temp. Right? Let's run that, and hopefully we can actually get this weather forecast as an object. So it doesn't look like, oh, no, I think we did. Yep, okay, so it didn't show it, and it doesn't say anything, but since we actually do have weather forecasts, we can know that temperature is not nil because it's not an optional, so I assume that all of these have their own main for temperature. So on the cell, let's just say that we have, the temperature, and we'll say label.title1, and we're going to throw it over to the right. So the temperatures would just be right here, and then this would say whatever it wants on the left. Okay. So for that, we have a vertical stack that lists everything down, and now we just need a horizontal stack to move it over here. So we'll have an H stack that will put the V stack inside, and our second element will just be the temperature. Okay. And so now we have that, and then simply we just need to say temp.text equals data main.temp. And that's just going to complain because it's a double and it needs to be a string, so we'll just wrap it in a string and give it an F. There we go. Alright, so we'll just run it, and hopefully now we'll see. Oh no! Oh, there it goes. Jeez. That was weird. Okay, so you'll notice some weird things going on. And that's just because we don't have a spacer. So that right now, the temperature field, or the temperature label is stretching, and that's why it's moving. So if we put in the spacer, SwiftUIKit makes it so that the spacer will be the one that stretches, and the spacer is kind of invisible. So when we load it up again, everything should look a lot better. Everything's kind of close to the edge, so I'm just gonna do a little padding on this embed. So you can add padding to any view, or you can add padding to an embed, and it's preferred that you add one to an embed because an embed is just the constraints, and padding is like another view that is padding your view. So it's preferred to just use embeds if you can, but obviously if you want a background view with shadows and that stuff, padding would work better. So now if we look at it, we'll actually see some things are padded in a little bit more. Okay, cool. These section and headers and section footers, so we're just going to hide the we'll just hide the views. So right now they're kind of defaulted, and I'm just going to make all of the headers and footers just blank views. And this is strictly because this is, oops, I missed my space. Sorry. This is strictly because SwiftUIKit automatically overrides the header view and header title and all those, and returns values. So UIKit, or the UI table view, is defaulting to those kind of blank views right here. So if you add these in, or if you extend, or if you set the table to a different data source, then you can handle that on your own. But this is just default for the table view in SwiftUIKit. But you can simply turn those off by just returning an empty view. So now we have that. That looks great. Okay, cool. So instead of, let's do navigation. So when I click on this, it'll navigate and show us another view that shows this. And we'll do one more thing of, we'll do the clear skies and clouds and that stuff. We'll do that next time. But yeah, let's navigate to another view and see kind of a little bit more detail of it. Okay. So then for any cell, I want that cell to navigate. So in here, you can either do this two ways. You can have, of course, the table view cell delegate. Yeah, you can set the delegate and handle the did tap events on your own, or you can just let the cells handle their taps on their own. For simplicity's sake, we'll just let the cells handle the tap on their own. So say button, and we'll say a button, and here's what the button does. The second closure for the button is what the button looks like. So this just wraps this whole view, and when I click on it, it'll do whatever in this code right here. So I can just say navigate dot shared, and I can say go, and then now we just need to give it a view controller, So I'll just say UI view controller, and I can default it and start giving it a UI view. So we'll just say background color of white, and we're going to embed a VStack in it. And we'll say that this is a push. Okay. So simply, I'm gonna put this right here, and I'll put the temperature up at the top. So when we click into this, it would go in and go to a different page, and this temperature would be at the very top, probably on the left side, and then the name, and then this would be on the bottom. All we want is just a spacer to make sure everything is, as small as it can be. If we don't have the spacer, one of the views has to stretch, so the description would probably take up quite a bit of this space. So now we'll run it. We'll get these. We can scroll. We can see them, and we'll click on one of these. And it looks like navigate got an error, and it had an issue navigating to a UI view controller. And SwiftUIKit says could not unwrap navigation controller. So something that we forgot was navigate shared.configure, and at the very beginning we set up a navigation controller, and now we can configure navigate with that navigation controller that we set up at the very beginning. So now when we run it, we shouldn't get that error now that we've let UIKit, or not UIKit, SwiftUIKit, the navigate singleton know about the navigation controller. Now it will actually be able to use this navigation controller and navigate us to where we need to go. Oh, looks like we have a little issue right here where we can't see that. And that's just, well, it's multiple reasons of that. This view that we made is the root view of the view controller. And so if we make this, well, first, if we make, I think, this a safe view controller. Do I still have this? I forget. Yeah, good. I got rid of it. All right. So all we need to do for this is just say safe area view, and wrap any view that we want in a safe area, which would be right here and a little bit right here, and then right where this kind of swipe tool is, or swipe gesture element. So if we run it now and we wrap the view in a safe area, the view is going to take up right in our safe area where it's always visible. So if we rotate the device, it should also be good. You can see the little padding that I told you about right in the back. So we might want to just say, hey, this is the safe area. But now if we rotate it, you can see that everything's always visible, and it pays attention to the notch and the bottom of the phone. So just putting the safe area view inside. The safe area view is just setting up basic constraints for safe area layout guide and the layout margins. So you can set those on your own. It's not anything too fancy, but yeah, it cares for that. I think this is, oh, that's funny. Is this, yeah, is this selected, or am I actually moving them? That is really funny. You shouldn't actually do this. Huh. Well, I think it's because I'm actually referencing these, so let's do it really quick of Oh, yeah, so now we have the data. Okay. So if we do this and we don't actually reference the same views, because, yeah, you shouldn't reference the same views. That's kind of just a cheesy thing that I can do since I'm all in one file and all scope. But yeah, now we can do data dot main dot temperature. And I need to just wrap this in a string. There we go. And now let's just put. Alright, so I can say name. And then this is weather.first. Okay. Alright, and here we go. So now it's probably going to complain about optionals. Yes. Alright, cool. So that's fine. I'll just default unwrap those as an empty string because that'll just hide them. Alright, so let's run it now. And now we shouldn't have that weird glitch where our views were hiding from us. Hopefully. Maybe I spoke too soon. Alright, there we go. So yeah, now we have a view in here. We can swipe back. And yeah, see these. So that's pretty much it for this first stream. I wanted to try to keep them an hour each. So I guess next week we'll work further on this little project. We can add more zip codes. We can make it so we can add the zip code and update the data while the app's running. We'll add a little bit more UI niceties, like maybe icons or anything for cloudy or clear or stuff like that. So that's what we'll be working on next week. For anyone that's watching right now, are there any questions? If not, I'll probably end it here. I think this is a pretty good stopping point, and I will make sure to push up this code on GitHub sometime before next week. But yeah, if there weren't any questions on what we did using Combine and also SwiftUIKit, then I'll just end it here. Alright, awesome. And if you did have a question and you didn't get to ask it, feel free to message me in Discord or leave a comment on the video. Thank you all for watching. I hope you have a nice week.